URL, send that to the victim, and then when that URL is evaluated, that SOAP method would be called into. The first format is how ASP.NET does it, and a few other frameworks do it. Some other frameworks use the second format there. And then just like the get binding, there's also a post binding. It's identical in the way it works. The only difference is instead of sending the data on the query string, it's sent as the post payload. So when you have things like this, you obviously have all the same problems that you had before with the cross-site request forgery. So what can you do about that? In ASP.NET, there are two properties called HTTP post and HTTP get to toggle that. So you want to make sure that you have that disabled. And it is disabled by default. However, a lot of people debug using this functionality. So people might turn it on the server and forget to turn it off. If your SOAP framework doesn't have the ability to disable this stuff, you could go into your web server and configure that so that you're not allowing these requests. And then lastly, some people will allow the get and post bindings, but only if the request is coming from localhost. That mitigates a lot of the problem. However, it doesn't completely solve the attack because the attacker could attempt to attack the administrator browsing from the web server, but admins really shouldn't be browsing from the web server anyway. So here's some ideas for automated testing. We want to test in the two big categories, the regular HTML forms and then the SOAP get and post bindings. So if you're testing HTML forms and you are working in a software vendor company and you have existing automation that tests all these web pages, what you can do is you can hook into IE or write a proxy or use one of the existing proxies to go and perform those test cases that I previously talked about and verify that the functionality does or doesn't work. For the SOAP cases for get and post binding, you can do a couple of things. Of course, you want to check the web.config or the similar configuration files to verify that you're not allowing this. If you have local access to the machine, you then want to go and find out what all your SOAP methods are and then try to form those get and post requests to see if they actually work. If you are a remote attacker, what you can do is request the WSDL file and then form the get and post request based on the information provided in the WSDL. Any questions? Okay. Yeah. I don't work on the browser team. I'm not aware of the browser handling this. This is only interesting in cases that, do some type of dangerous action and where the user is authenticated. There are many user scenarios where people actually want to do this. For example, if you have a search box on your site and you type something in there and click submit and it does a Google search, in that case, it's actually a GET request, but you can imagine the same functionality with the POST request. Any other questions? Okay. So I have this web application on my local machine that allows you to add users. In this case, I've loaded this is like the bad attack web page. But I left all the UI showing exactly what it's doing in a real case. The attacker would hide all this stuff. He would probably put it in an iframe or frame set that's like 1 pixel large, so you wouldn't really see anything. But the data's already pre-populated, that there's an account called bad guy and a password's in there, and that, of course, since he's the bad guy, he wants to be an admin as opposed to a guest or something like that. So if I click add user there, it tells me that, the bad guy has been added. The attacker wouldn't be able to see that information because that's a read. However, the action happens and the bad guy account has been created. So in this case, it's a local file that's doing the post to the website localhost. However, that file could live on any web server or be an email attachment. And then the other thing that I wanted to show is very similar. So again, this is a local file, and I can specify any user account. And in the attack scenario, the person would have this already filled out. Now, what this is a form that's saved that the attacker retrieved under his account. And when this is submitted, you see that ASP.NET caught this, and it said that the hidden form field was not correct. And that's because I didn't request that page. There's two pages that we're submitting to on this site. The first one is the correctly coded one. The first example was a buggy application. And so you see here that there's this view state, and that's the form validation property, and that's unique for each user. So the attacker wouldn't be able to get that and get a different user to submit the form data with that. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you.